Hey, it's Tpok. I am back in Katawa Shoujo, and we left off with Emmy running in a race, and we were spectating, so as soon as she crossed the finish line, the fierce look was replaced by her normal grin. The conquering general returning to his farm. Amazing. She's really amazing. I've never seen someone move that fast. Well, don't look at me. I'm far too relaxed to run that fast. No, I think Emmy's prowess all came from her father's side. At the mention of Emmy's father, Miss Iburazaki looks wistful, almost sad. He got her into running, you know. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I leave it at that and don't say anything for a little while. I get the feeling this is something personal I shouldn't ask about. A beeping noise suddenly emanates from Miss Iburazaki's pocket. Reaching into it, she pulls out a cell phone and looks at it. Honestly, text messages? What is he, 16? Oh, nothing. I've got to go meet up with a friend of mine. Will you tell Emmy I'm very proud of her and that I'll call her later tonight? Of course. While waiting for the relay to start, I peer at Rin. She seems uninterested in her surroundings, myself included. That remark she made before is still stuck in my head. Emmy is the most Emmy when she runs. It does make sense now that I think about it. After seeing her run now, I can believe that Emmy gives her all on the track. Oh, gives her all on the track. Sports are more than a hobby, or even a competition to her. They're a defining aspect of her life. Or, they're a defining aspect of her life. What about Rin then? Does she feel the same way about art? Considering the persistence she displayed before the festival, I could easily believe it. Did I see Rin at her most Rin when she was painting the mural? The relay's about to begin, but I don't see Emmy anywhere. I thought Emmy ran the relay. She runs anchor. So she won't be running for a while yet. Ah. Did you see it? Huh? Emmy at her Emmiest. Maybe. Maybe this time. The race begins and I cheer Emmy's teammates along as they pass the baton. Finally, I see Emmy sprinting onto the track and to take the final handoff. Once again, I'm taken aback by how graceful she looks when she runs. It really is beautiful. The look of determination and fearlessness on her face only adds to the picture. Emmy at her Emmiest, I suppose. Emmy flies across the finish line with a great leap, just barely ahead of the next runners, but still in first. Well, let's go down. Gotta crown the victor. See if you can find a laurel branch. That's not going to be easy. Rin shrugs. At least we tried. Emmy is surrounded by her teammates, all of them congratulating her on the run. Rin seems to be waiting for Emmy to notice that she's arrived. It doesn't seem her style to draw attention to herself, nor to emote beyond shrugging. Being more impatient than Rin, I wave to Emmy in her stead. Stead? She looks up and grins happily at us. Hey, you showed up! We would have brought you a crown of laurels, but Hisao didn't find one. Neither did you. It wasn't my job to look. When did we assign jobs? And I said see if you can find a laurel branch. Try to keep up. I shrug. I guess Rin's rubbing off on me. It seems it's my fault after all, Emmy. Emmy laughs at Rin and me. It's okay. I'm sure you'll make it up to me somehow. Sure. Good. So how did I look? Very impressive. Emmy seems pleased with this assessment. I don't mention how much more impressive her performance is given her lack of legs. I figure she knows that already. Besides, it seemed like it would take away from her effort somehow. Great to hear. I was worried that I looked a little slow on the relay, but I guess I did fine, huh? Emmy giggles, then seems to remember something. Oh, before I forget, Rin and I are going to do something next Sunday as a post-track meet celebration. You should come along. Normally we do it the day after, but since today is Sunday, I've got homework and class and all that stuff to take care of. Oh, sure, I'd love to. Great, it's a promise then. Oh, right, your mom wanted to say she's proud of you. She'll call you later tonight. I thought I saw her in the stands. I'm glad she made it. Hey, Emmy, you're going to miss the medal ceremony. Oh, yeah, thanks. She turns to Rin and myself. You don't have to stick around for this part. It takes forever. Besides, you should get cracking on your homework now if you don't want to be up late, Hisao. Emmy skips back to her teammates, leaving me and Rin by ourselves. Neither of us has the slightest interest in the post-competition ceremony, so we silently get away back to the quad. Rin yawns without even trying to restrain herself, and I don't think... Can you restrain yourself without arms? And shuffles her feet around restlessly. I feel awkward, but less so than if I was with someone else. Still, I'm left hanging, not knowing what I should say next. Emmy was great, wasn't she? She was great. I'm very jealous of her. Why? Like I said, don't you think it's great to be able to really be yourself? It sounds weird coming from Rin. I don't think you, of all people, should have trouble finding a way to express yourself. Don't you have your paintings? She turns to look at me. For the first time, I see in her eyes this strange hollow expression that I think must be unique to her. No, you see, the problem is that I'm not really sure who I am. Okay. That was an abrupt ending there. Today's art club meeting is currently on hold while everyone waits for Nomiya to show up. I take this time to try and explain my theory about Yamaku to Rin. I try to figure out what exactly about this school feels so special to me. That concept I unsuccessfully tried to explain to Yuko the other day. It's still difficult, but the track meet and the time I've spent observing my fellow students have helped my ideas mature a little. Have you noticed that people talk all the time? I can't really explain it, but once again I try to explain my observation. I'm struggling for words. The student body is heavily clicked, and I'm only now beginning to make sense of the intricate grouping and popularity networks. And yet the feeling of being a part of a group is stronger here than I remember it being in my old schools. I'm trying to say this school isn't like other schools, or at least the students aren't, even after discounting the obvious. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what you mean. Oh, well, whatever then. I want to pursue the issue, but at that point, Nomiya arrives. The teacher's wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief and breathing rather heavily. He quickly glances over the room, then settles down a bit. Hello, hello. Apologies for being late. Is everyone present? Good. I must confess I haven't really planned anything for today as I have been extremely busy lately, but I'm sure we could come up with something entertaining. Anyone have any suggestions? I was thinking we could have a discussion circle since we haven't had one in a while. I at least found the last one magnificently enjoyable. There are some murmurs here and there, but nobody raises their voice in support or against Nomiya. We could delve into various movements of art, or does someone have a good topic in mind? Come on, throw it out there. It doesn't matter if it's silly or odd, we can always cook up something interesting. Nobody seems to be brave enough to make such a suggestion. As the awkward silence refuses to be broken, I lift my hand in the air. Oh ho! Our newest friend seems to have something on his mind. Speak up, my boy, speak up. Well, I don't know about anyone else, but I've always wondered why art exists in the first place. My voice trails off. Silence sets in the room, and nobody makes a follow-up on my meek suggestion. Then the teacher bursts in laughter. Ho ho ho, excellent. Very good indeed. Right out of the gate with the big one, huh? Fabulous. Chuckling, he shifts some papers around on his desk for a few moments. When he's done, he appears to have made some sort of decision. Very well then. Let us run with this and see where it gets us, shall we? Why is his tongue sticking out? Oh my, even an old fogey like me gets excited when such delicious enthusiasm is present. Oh my, indeed. Let me gather my thoughts a moment so I can figure out a good starting point for everyone. For some reason, the teacher seems to be almost literally bursting with excitement. He scribbles a few things down on a loose sheet of paper, then cleans his glasses with the handkerchief. He strikes a pose, then freezes for an overtly dramatic, artistic pause that spans what must be half a minute. It's so quiet I could hear a pin drop. First, let's come up with a few questions that we want answered, such as what is art and why does art exist? Anyone have any questions that might be related? The boy with sunglasses pipes up almost immediately. His voice is soft and quiet, and I have a hard time making out what he says. What defines an artist? After him, another question comes up. If I fill a cardboard box with water, call it art, is it art? Everyone laughs at that, even the teacher. Great, wonderful, all of these. Let me start by saying that this is not a clear-cut issue by any means, and as such I am not going to give any answers to you. I'm only going to speak from my own perspective. Scholars have argued about these sorts of questions since time immemorial, and there has never really been a broadly applicable consensus reached. There are, however, some qualities that most tend to generally agree upon. Hopefully you shall all find these acceptable as well. In short, art defines itself. That sounds like Rin. It simply cannot be contained to a definition from the outside, since the boundaries of art expand and contract from forces within. Every day someone somewhere comes up with something completely outrageous that challenges any and all preconceptions. The core reason for this is that rather than the rational side of the mind, art appeals to the intuition, the instinct, the primal. You would find it very hard to explain why exactly it is you enjoy some particular style or piece, no? He doesn't wait for a response before continuing. This is exactly why. So, art is the sort of wild, uncontrollable thing that lurks somewhere deep in our subconscious. Now, why does it exist? Namiya apparently expects someone to pipe up with a guess, but as nobody dares to interrupt his inspired speech, he continues. It was a trick question. You see, art also validates itself. Generally speaking, you might say that art exists for no other purpose than itself. It's something that exists merely to leave a mark in history. It's the defiance of a mortal against the face of darkness. As was once said, art is truly the proof of our existence. You should all know that human culture and civilization are tightly tied to the existence of art. Then what about artists? What drives a man to dedicate his life to a thing so fickle and mysterious that it even defies definition? There are many answers for this, and as there are artists, but if I had to put into words, an artist doesn't make art because he can, but because he must. Namiya takes a pause, and his gaze sweeps over his audience, eyes flaring with passion. Isn't it obvious that art touches the very soul of each and every human being in one way or another? So, if you were given a chance to connect with your fellow man in such a fundamental way, how could you not? There is a poem I'm very much fond of, and shall recite the most well-known part of it to you now. I feel that, for me personally, of all things possible, it captures best the essence of what it means to be an artist. Namiya leans against the desk as he clears his throat in preparation. Looking at some distant place, he utters the words in a heavy afternoon air with his soft basso voice. To see a world in a grain of sand. and heaven a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. There's a solemn and I think I recognize that. An unbelievably awkward silence after he finishes reciting the short fragment. Nobody dares speak a word. Nomiya clears his throat again. To be an artist is to see the world in a grain of sand. You see, dear children, without art there would not be much to live for in this world. It is a most profound thing. He's clearly touched by this notion. I almost expect to see a lone tear rolling down his rough cheek, but it never comes. I turn to Rin and whisper to her. So, how is this a discussion circle? She shrugs nonchalantly back at me. The previous ones were the same. To his credit, Nomiya does try to get some debate going, but the club seems to be reluctant to comply. I feel a bit guilty about opening my mouth. Maybe we would have been spared from this. As the meeting comes to a close, I realize we haven't once touched any paint or pens today, and I feel somewhat disappointed. Nomiya suddenly appears next to us. He seems to be still fired from his speech he delivered. Its cologne smells musky and saccharine at the same time, giving me an instant headache, even though I'm not sensitive to perfumes. He's looking at Rin like a hungry wolf. Tezuka, do you remember Mrs. Saionji, who visited us at the festival? I think so. I'm going to tell you something amazing. The thing is, she's a very well-known gallerist around here. It turns out I might be able to get her to consider having some of your work put on display. He ends his sentence with a dramatic gesture. It seems he's expecting Rin to show some sort of joyous, shocked reaction at such grand news, but she just stares at him blankly. Magnificent, isn't it? This could be a real chance for us to get ahead, girl. Sorry about the awkward pause between that, but... Now, I know what you're about to say. Yes, it wouldn't be a simple affair, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we even made it big. This could be the first step, and then, when the word is out, we strike while the iron is hot. Right, Nakai? Yeah, it does sound pretty great, if you're into that kind of thing. See, we should definitely not let this one pass, am I right? I don't really... Rin seems to be troubled for some reason. I can't figure out why. What Nomiya is saying does indeed sound like a possibly great thing. She looks pretty down now and confused. I've never seen her like this. So, what do you think? Rin looks up to her teacher's glowing face, then back down at her desk. I'll think about it. Nomiya is at last taken slightly aback by Rin's lack of superlative delight. Then he smiles widely at her and gently pats her head. Good girl. The club meeting is finally over as I lazily collect my things and clean up. I start feeling exhausted for some reason. There isn't much to do, however, so it's over quickly. I catch up to Rin, who left the club room just a moment earlier, so we're walking down the stairs to the ground floor while I try to go over Nomiya's passionate speech about art, and Rin seems to be lost in thought. Not an unusual state for her, I've learned, but something about her expression makes me feel uneasy. Penny for your thoughts. That'd be too cheap. You're just overpricing your thoughts. I wouldn't be able to sell them anyway. I'm not sure what I'm thinking yet. That'd be a fraud too, like stealing candy from a baby. That's theft, not fraud. I have to think about what I think. Is this about what the teacher said, getting your work put on display and all that? She doesn't answer, but stops in her tracks as we reach the lobby. We're the only people around, so it's very quiet. Footsteps echo from a few floors up as someone hurries along the hallway. I think I'm going to go somewhere elsewhere. Okay. I think she really is troubled. Want company? Can't promise much help with the thinking, but it's not like I have much else to do, and I'm supposed to do some light exercise. if you like. Rin leads me outside to the wall behind the dormitories. There's a small black gate there, less pompous, made from the same wrought iron as the main gate. It leads to the shadowy woodland park behind the school. The gate is rusty, as if it hasn't seen much use. However, it sits open, so we pass through. It's not forbidden for students to leave the grounds, but I somehow feel a little uneasy. Oh, this is a nice area. The woods. A path leads deeper into the forest. Tall Zelkova and maple trees rustle in the wind, their canopies creating patches of chill air hanging in the places where the shadows fall. The forest smells strongly of earth. I almost feel cold, even though the midsummer's day is as hot as ever. Rin trudges ahead like a sleepwalker, sure-footed but with no apparent destination in her mind. Her thoughts seem to be somewhere else. I follow a few steps behind, taking more care to watch where my feet land. The path follows the land uphill at a low angle, sometimes making little detours downhill before climbing back upward. The muted brown and gray trunks line the path on both sides, peppered with ferns and other undergrowth. Well, we're going to continue this hike next time, but I'm interested in what's going to happen next. Don't really know what's going on. I can tell she doesn't really want to put her art on display, or she's not ready to put her art on display or whatever, or whatnot. So, yeah. I think next episode is going to be interesting. So, thanks for watching, and see you next time.